Yo, what up, everybody? We're going to be reviewing John Grisham's Sycamore Row during this book review. I'm Brian Lee Durfee, author of The Forgetting Moon and The Blackest Heart and The Lonesome Crown, all published by Simon & Schuster Saga Press. Forgive me if I keep adjusting this shirt. I don't think it fits anymore. I mean, I'm getting like, fat and, other than my Lord of the Rings tattoo, shows that anyway. But gosh, this shirt used to be one of my best fitting shirts, and it's too tight on me today. I think I gained 40 pounds just overnight. I've always been a fat kid, though. Anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, John Grisham, Sycamore Row. If you watched my video review of A Time to Kill, great for you doing that, but if you haven't watched it, go watch it right now, because A Time to Kill stars Jake Brigance, the young lawyer, played by Matthew McConaughey in the movie, who got Samuel L. Jackson off the murder charge and blah, blah, blah. Well, Sycamore Row stars the same Jake Brigance, the young lawyer, who was in A Time to Kill. Now, A Time to Kill was John Grisham's first novel ever. We went over all of that stuff in my review for Time to Kill. We won't rehash it here. Let's just say that our lawyer is back in the town, in the small southern town, and things are happening again, and he's got another case to figure out. But this one's kind of cool. This one's cool. It's way different than this one. This one was a murder. This one ain't. This one starts off with Mr. Hubbard. He's an old guy. Kind of a loner living in Mississippi, Alabama. I think these are set in Mississippi or Alabama. I can't remember which. The Deep South, right? He's an old loner. He commits suicide. He hangs himself from a sycamore tree, and he leaves. He has a will. He set up a will like 10 years prior, where he gifted all of his assets to his kids. Well, the day before he hangs himself, he redoes that will, but he just writes it out by hand. And he cuts all of his children out of the will because they're a-holes. They never visit him. They don't like him. They treat him like crap. So he writes them out of the will. And he gives all of his assets and fortune to his housekeeper, Nettie, a middle-aged black lady who has been keeping house for him for the last few years of his life, and he's like, I'll just give it to her. And but this handwritten will, and he mails it to our protagonist, Mr. Jake Brigance, the lawyer, and the young lawyer. Jake Brigance gets this will, and he's like, oh my gosh, I heard about this guy killing himself, and now I've got this will. I didn't know the guy, but I've got this will, and he wants me to be the executor of the will. And so, but he's also kicked out his, there's a brother that the guy that killed himself has a brother that he hasn't seen since he was a kid. That guy's mentioned briefly in the will, gets 5% of the fortune. Nettie, his housekeeper, gets 90% of the fortune. Can't remember where the last 5% of the fortune was supposed to go. Oh, a church. It's supposed to go to his church. And then, but all the kids are kicked out of the will, but it's handwritten, but it's, it's still legal. It's still a legal binding document. And so our buddy Jake Brigance, the lawyer, he has to make sure that this goes through and that the money, the fortune, goes to the right lady that it's supposed to go to and not to the kids. Well, the kids know that their father's dead, and they're expecting to inherit a lot of stuff, but it's right. I mean, the father was right. Mr. Hubbard's right. They're a bunch of a-holes. And they don't deserve the money, right? But they lawyer up, and then it's a court battle for this money, this fortune. I'm telling you, but that's not all it's about. That's a fantastic setup as it is, right? That's just a massive, awesome setup right there as it is. Because you want Nettie to get the money because she needs it, and she was the only nice person in Mr. Hubbard's life. And the lawyers all know this, and everybody knows this, but, shenanigans ensue. People start saying, well, maybe Nettie killed him. No, maybe she wrote the will out and murdered the dude. Maybe Nettie ain't all that great a person after all, right? Maybe she set this whole thing up. And then we've got the brother that hasn't been, Mr. Hubbard has a brother that he hasn't seen since they were children. And there's a mystery behind that angle. And then, that brother shows up and gets found. And then I'm going to tell you, that's all the plot I'm going to give you, because that's all the plot you need. It's just fantastic. It's absolutely a fantastic story. And it's one of John Grisham's better thrillers. And I'll tell you, the ending to this one, it's one of the best endings. I talked about the beginning of A Time to Kill being one of the best beginnings in a novel in the history of literature. The ending to Sycamore Row, I had tears in my eyes. I mean, I was like, this is like the way the world should work, right? This is all. I mean, just if the world could always, it's a bit of a happy ending. Let me just say that. A little bit of spoilery, but hey, let's just be honest. Most of John Grisham's books are legal thrillers where the good guys win. But here we have one that's actually really kind of touching. It really, and writing advice. I always give some writing advice. If you're going to read this, study as you're reading it. Read it twice actually, and study. Read it once for the enjoyment of it, and then read it again and study the way John Grisham sets up all of these bits and pieces of plot so they all come together at the end in just a fantastically tightly woven ending that will make you get tears in your eyes. I mean, that's a rare thing to do in a book, is to make people feel something. And he does in Sycamore Row. So that's my review of Sycamore Row. I'm reviewing these two books particularly close together. A Time to Kill, Sycamore Row, because the third book in the trilogy, the Jake Brigance trilogy, is coming out. This came out in 1989. This came out, 10 years ago or so. And now he's going to write a third book starring Jake Brigance, and it's coming out next month, called A Time for Mercy. And so I wanted to reread these both and leave reviews, because I'm so excited for A Time for Mercy and to get more Jake Brigance lawyer stuff back into my life. I love these books. I love John Grisham just in general, but man, these two Jake Brigance books are phenomenal, and I'm hoping the third one is too. So I'm going to give Sycamore Row an absolute 10 out of 10. I think it's one of the perfect novels. It's one of those novels that's just word for word perfect. And you can learn a lot by reading this guy. If you're a writer, if you're a young writer, you can read how to do thrillers by reading this guy. So everybody go out and get Sycamore Row if you ain't already.